Hi, I'm Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life. I talked to acclaimed director and executive producer Roland Emmerich.
When I saw the first race, I was like giddy.
Actor Ewan Ryan.
For an actor, that's a dream, although you do get a lot of sand in your sandals.
And so many more.
You helped summon those ghosts back onto that stage.
Every day when I went to set, I was giggling about what I saw.
I think it's going to be a breathtaking thing.
People will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone, so we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural then and now.
Hello, and welcome to Buffering the Vampire Slayer, a podcast where we'll be watching and discussing every episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, one by one. I'm Jenny Owen Youngs.
And I'm Kristin Russo. And this week, on our very first episode, we'll be talking about Season 1, Episode 1, Welcome to the Hellmouth.
Stay tuned at the end of this podcast every week for an original song written by me, recapping the Buffy episode we're discussing. But for right now, let's get it started. Woo! Okay, so we're doing this because we both love the television program Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I was more reluctant to come to my love for Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I, Jenny, have been repeatedly watching the entire series of Buffy the Vampire Slayer over and over again for the last 12 years.
So did you watch it when it was on television?
Well, I did, but I wasn't religious about it.
Okay.
I saw the movie when the movie came out.
Of course.
When I was a kid.
Who didn't?
And then, I watched maybe the first 2 seasons when it was airing live, and then I kind of drifted away from it because of high school delinquent behavior.
Yeah, you had to learn how to play guitar and stuff.
Yeah. But then I got back into it in college.
Why? Because you met friends who liked it? Or?
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah. So then I became a total convert and have been flipping my lid over it ever since. And Kristen and I have been together as a couple for about 6.5 years.
Yep.
And I would say probably 4 years into our relationship, I was able to convince Kristen to give Buffy a spin.
4 seconds into the relationship, I learned that Jenny owned the boxed sets of both Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, and was really proud of that fact.
What's not to be proud of?
No, I mean, of course. And actually, one of my first experiences with you watching it religiously was when you had Justin Pierre over. Remember?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were supposed to be writing, but instead
they watched Buffy for the whole time.
Sometimes you gotta.
It was really funny because you were like, Justin's coming and we're gonna make music, and then they just watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer the whole time.
Well, writing music, you have to access the deepest wells of your emotion, and the deepest wells of my emotion are full of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
So
I understand. And that actually piqued my interest for the first time because I was like, all right, well, they're really into this. Obviously, they've cast off their responsibilities entirely to sit in a windowless room and watch episode after episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I think that's when we tried to watch it together for the first time. but we started with season 1.
Which you couldn't tolerate.
I couldn't tolerate it, but now revisiting season 1 all these years later, I don't understand what was possibly wrong with me all those years ago. But essentially then Jenny convinced me to watch season 2 to start. And I watched season 2 to start, and I fell in love with it. And then I watched all of the seasons, and despite my own perceptions of myself, I became a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. I think it's one of the best television shows that exists, that I've seen anyhow.
I just think there are two kinds of people in the world. There are people who love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and there are people who, for whatever reason, won't allow themselves to love Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. There should be a whole school of therapy just for people who won't allow themselves to love Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
We'll get there as a society.
Yeah, because I think it says a lot. Anyway, now we're back to season 1, episode 1. The episode that Kristin Russo of yesteryear did not enjoy.
Welcome to the Hellmouth.
God, it's so good.
It's really good.
It's like everything about it makes me happy. We've never done this podcast before, so we don't know what we're supposed to say or how we're supposed to say it. But I think what I'm trying to say is that the first episode of this television series, now that I know what this television series is about, did not disappoint me for one single solitary second. And I don't know our format, but I'm going to just start at the very beginning because the opening scene, there's 2 opening scenes as far as I see
There's the cold open.
The cold open and then the first scene that we see after the credits.
Right.
And I feel like both of those are so significant and so indicative of what this whole series is. So what am I allowed to talk about? What do I do? What do I say first?
Well, let's start with the cold open.
Okay, so the cold open moved me because I feel that Buffy is an extremely feminist character. I think that Buffy was written, as my wife has told me, by Joss Whedon to sort of upend the way that superheroes were written, always as strong, burly men.
Right, and to upend the way women were written.
Which was like the victim down in the dark alleyway.
Right.
Right? And so the very first scene doesn't have Buffy in it, but it has this, couple that goes into the school. Also, I love that the school is front and center right from the beginning.
Totally. Also, what's up with that science room? Cat skeletons all mounted? Did you have cat skeletons at your school?
I didn't have cat skeletons, but we did. I mean, I didn't, but there were classes that dissected cats. Did you not have that in your school?
We just had frogs, I think.
We all did frogs, and then if you were advanced level, you dissected cats.
I may have blocked that out.
It was pretty horrible. I mean, I didn't do it, but it, just thinking back on it, it was really rough. But yeah, so you see this couple go in, right? And it's a guy and a girl, and they go in, and he's all like, "Hey, baby, gotcha. And don't worry, I'm a dude, and I'm going to protect you from the bad things out there." And she's like, "Oh, no.
I am the bad things."
Right. And then she flips her face into a vampire face and totally sucks all of his blood. And that's that. And it's just boom. And there you have the setting for what this show I think is going to do with gender from day one.
Totally. That scene is titled Welcome to the Hellmouth. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
My eyes, you couldn't see me, listeners, but my eyes got so wide. I was like, the
scenes have titles?
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, exactly.
But that could be the whole episode. It couldn't. But you know what I mean?
Well, it couldn't because then we get to the open.
Right.
Can I talk about that too?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're here to do.
This is a podcast with Jenny and Kristin, but it's mostly Kristin.
Well, I'll set it up, right? And then you can knock it in the basket.
I'll try.
So after the credits featuring the greatest theme song of all time, we cut to Buffy's dream sequence, right? Oh, it's spooky. There's blood. There's vampires walking through a graveyard. There's a lot of graveyard shots. And she's tossing and turning. And then the last thing we see before she wakes up is a face of a super old vampire that kind of looks like... Have you ever seen those... There's this rodent called a naked mole rat.
Yes.
They're blind and hairless and they live underground. He sort of looks like a naked mole rat.
What's his name?
The Master.
The Master. Yeah, so hold up, because so many things just happened in what you described. First of all, the dream. It's hey, welcome to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where symbolism matters. There's like 100,000 things in that dream that are symbols. There's the crucifix, there's the graveyard, there's the master.
Even the vampire book is in there, right?
Yeah, the vampire book is in there. The necklace, the crucifix necklace that later is given to Buffy. Those are all...
I like how her dream is stuff that happens later in the episode. I mean, I guess that's the whole point. They're sort of like prophetic dreams. Fine.
Right. But, and also, I'm pretty sure that one of the graves said Voldemort. I don't know. I couldn't catch it. I tried to catch it. You can go back and watch and tell me if it said Voldemort or not.
We'll have to take a closer look.
Yeah. But so they set up symbolism, right? And then we're in her bedroom. And from the moment that we're in Buffy's bedroom until the end of that scene, or the place where that scene transitions, it is, I think, straight out of a classic, like Wes Craven classic horror film. You know, you have like the empty bedroom with the boxes just unpacked, and the lighting is like very bright and kind of like fantasy-like.
Yeah, like almost too sunny.
Exactly.
Like a mist has just cleared.
Exactly. And, you know, you hear Buffy's mom from downstairs being like, Buffy, it's just another day. And she's probably pouring like orange juice that's just a little too bright down in the kitchen. And then we transition right from that scene to the school where there's like this teenage music jamming.
Yeah, it's totally Scream.
Oh, it's totally. And I have to tell you that having watched a lot of those horror movies, like everyone's gonna die. Like that's just what that's what happens.
That's what we've learned by living our lives.
Yeah, when
everyone's gonna die. When the orange juice is that bright.
It's a bad sign. It's a bad sign for what's to come. So I'm really excited about those first two scenes. I'm excited about a lot more, but like, Jenny, why don't you tell me what you're excited about so far?
Oh, man. I'm excited about, oh man, am I excited about Xander cruising in on his skateboard. And I mean, even the doofiest stuff in this episode totally works for me. Maybe it's because I'm like so committed to the characters. And if you're watching for the first time and you're like kind of gritting your teeth through this first season as you watch along with us, you're going to come back to this season one day after you've fallen head over heels with the greatest TV show of all time. And you're going to say, Jenny and Kristin were right.
Yeah.
Season one is pretty great.
Just trust the ghost of Kristin Russo future, because she's telling you that this is a great episode.
And, just suspend your disbelief like a little bit. Like, you're already suspending your disbelief for vampires. So suspend your disbelief for like what people were wearing in 1997.
The best.
And what kind of jokes they were making. In rides Xander and, totally gets distracted by shiny Buffy and wipes out. And then immediately there's Willow. So like bang, bang.
Yeah.
Here is Xander and Willow, who are going to be two of the four most important characters. So we've already met Buffy, obviously.
I would beg to argue that they were two of the five most important characters.
Who am I missing?
I don't know. I mean, I think that Buffy, Willow, Xander, Cordelia, and Giles are all of equal importance.
Okay. Sure. Sure.
Not to like school the Buffy nerd herself.
Yeah, I mean, there are arguments I can make that I'm not going to make because we're sort of like not there yet.
Right. Okay.
About Cordelia, but she is an intrinsic...
you weren't counting Cordelia. Horror.
I know that Cordelia is your favorite character ever.
Yeah.
Of anything.
Also, Cordelia
auditioned
auditioned to play Buffy, so trivia fact that I know.
Right. Charisma Carpenter, former Chargers cheerleader, I think. Totally auditioned for Buffy. Ryan Reynolds auditioned for Xander.
Oh, wow.
Wow, indeed.
Fascinating. How lives would be different today.
Yeah, so different.
I'm so glad that Xander was Xander.
Yeah, he's perfect.
And, I don't want to detour us too much, but I was thinking about why season 1, episode 1 might be more difficult for a new viewer than it is for like me or you coming back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because this show is so character driven. It's the first episode of any series is really set to establish characters in the most dramatic ways. And there's Cordelia, who's like, haha, I'm Cordelia and I'm a popular girl and this is what I do. And then she's mean to Willow. And there's Willow, who's like wearing a Sears dress that her mom picks out for her.
Oh, she's so cute. She's so cute.
But they're all established in very, not caricature-like ways, but,
But broad strokes.
Broad strokes.
Because what can you do in 45 minutes?
Right. And I think that for those of us who know the finer, more nuanced strokes, we're like so excited to see the broad strokes for the first time.
Yeah. But even with the time constraint and how many characters they're introducing and how many concepts they're introducing and how much they have to sort of get across, like you can't make the first episode of this TV show assuming people even have the basis of the movie to go off of.
Right.
There's some stuff that's getting dropped from the movie, like she burned down the gym and he refers to like Giles as you people, meaning I think watchers or people who wanted to fight vampires. But like they want to establish things without you necessarily knowing what came before.
Right.
Right. And considering all of the constraints that they're working with, I think they do such an amazing. There are so many great small moments with all of the major characters that they introduce. Like when they're at the Bronze and Giles is like telling Buffy to like sort of hone and like tune into her Slayer sense and dig deep to pick out the van. She just interrupts him and is just like, "There's one," and he's like, "How do you know?" And she tells him, that the guy's wearing something from the 80s and whatever, and he's like, "But you didn't hone." And then she realizes the guy's talking to Willow, and she's like, I gotta go save Willow. She runs off, and Giles stands there on the balcony of the Bronze, doing nothing, and then does this amazing sort of like, look to the left, look to the right, doesn't know what he's supposed to do, and then he like finally pushes off and goes in a direction.
What a gifable moment it was.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Willow has all these like goofy, self-deprecating lines, and some of them I feel like stand the test of time and some of them don't, but the ones that do, you just sort of really get a sense of like her sweetness, and you kind of get a sense that she like understands this sort of social hierarchy and her place in it, and like also doesn't care and like wants to help Buffy by like telling her she doesn't have to talk to Willow.
Right. I mean, I think you get a sense, and maybe I'm like, it's hard as a person who's seen the series to know if I'm getting the sense from this episode alone or if I'm layering on my future knowledge of characters. But I do feel like you get a sense right from the beginning that even though Willow is the like unpopular character and Cordelia is the popular character, that Willow's really got her shit together way more than Cordelia, which may not be me reading into characters. It may just be me understanding society. But Willow, like you said, she's very strong in what she chooses or doesn't choose. She doesn't stand up to Cordelia, which maybe makes her seem weak in that moment. But I feel like overall, she just seems like the stronger character.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that, because I do think that gets established very quickly, and we'll see more vulnerability from Cordelia and from everybody as the series, continues to expand and develop these people. But I think you're right on that Willow is established right away as having some kind of stronger handle on things, even though she's in a very different place than Cordelia.
Totally. Oh, everyone listening, I just like thought about all the things that will happen, and I want to tell you that my whole body was full of just pure excitement. I can't wait to keep watching these episodes. They're so good.
They're so good, and they're just going to get better and better.
So we've met Giles. Well, Giles.
Let's talk about that intro.
Let's talk about the first moment we see Giles.
Let's talk about the first moment right before we see Giles, where she walks into the spooky dark library where nobody is, walks up to the desk, and there's nothing on the library desk except for a newspaper with a big red Sharpie circle around local boys still missing.
Every time we watch this episode, Jenny laughs harder and harder at that.
It's so ridiculous.
It is.
Man.
God, what is it about certain television shows or certain ways that things are written where it is so ridiculous and yet I love it so much?
Oh my God, me too.
Wow. I guess, we're just fans. So, but also there's something magic.
We could end the podcast now forever. We could just make one episode and say we are fans and be done with it. But I would rather sit here once a week and talk to you at length about what I like.
God, so Giles, like, right, there's the newspaper with the red circle around it, and then Giles, like, can't keep it together.
Just immediately, I know what you're looking for. This enormous book with, like, metal locks built into the leather with a crazy spelling of the word vampire. Like, what?
Yeah.
You are taking such a risk, such a broad, deep swing.
Although it's not really a risk, because if Buffy was just a student, she'd be like, what's your damage, old man? Did you get that callback to the movie? I just surprised myself.
It's really nice.
But yeah, I mean, I think that, he didn't take too much of a risk, but he could have played it a little cooler.
He could have played it a little cooler, especially considering how British he is. He's just like losing his mind all over the place. He also, if you watch the episode closely in the scenes where he's talking to Buffy directly, he's always like way too close for a sort of like faculty-student physical proximity thing, which actually is something that Joss Whedon talks about in the commentary track on the complete Buffy series DVD collection or whatever.
Yeah, someone we know has that.
It's fine.
But you brought this up. You've brought this up with me before, where they said like they did that and then they realized
that was totally inappropriate, and they kind of like kept a nice buffer between them in future episodes.
Well, I'm gonna just go on the record here and say I'm pissed off about that. I'm pissed off that they changed the boundaries, because here's how I feel. Because I've thought about it and I watched the scene again today, thinking, okay, let me see if I feel this is inappropriate or some shit. And I didn't find it inappropriate at all. I think that Giles and Buffy are operating in a sphere of the world where they're trying to literally like stop vampires and like the underbelly of these ghosts and goblins. Okay, probably not ghosts, but like, you know what I'm saying? They're
are there ghosts?
Okay. I don't think so. Anyway, they're operating in a sphere where they're trying to literally like save people's lives, which I think undoes some of these like student-teacher boundaries or even like gender boundaries. It's like, think about how you'd interact with somebody if you were just walking down the street versus if you were the only two people on the street and everybody else was trying to kill you. Like, you're not going to be worrying about like how you're interacting with somebody, and I love that.
Right. And I think we'll see those boundaries change too as their relationship grows and changes. But right up front, this episode, they're still sort of like feeling each other out. She's not interested in doing anything anywhere near him.
Okay. And I'll stop arguing in a second. But it's just like, okay, fine, they've just met. But imagine you just met the one person on the planet who knows the thing about you that no one else knows. Don't you automatically have a pretty intense relationship with that person just by default?
Right. I see what you're saying. Totally. But I think, at this point, she's still fighting that intense connection.
Right.
She's in denial about it.
Okay. All right.
She's pushing it away, but not pushing him away physically until probably the next episode.
Yeah. But Buffy's such like an eye roll character. She's like I feel like she's not a person to push you away unless she really has to. She's more like, ugh.
Yeah, that about sums it up.
Yeah.
Sonically.
Support for today's episode comes from OneSkin. And if you have sensitive skin, you're going to want to hear about their scientifically proven topical supplements. Free from over 1,500 chemicals and preservatives that can make skin red, irritated, or itchy, their products are safe for sensitive skin. It's just one of the reasons they've earned the skin-safe seal of approval.
They've also earned the Jenny Owen Youngs and Kristin Russo seal of approval, if I do say so myself, Jenny.
I couldn't agree more. I've been using OneSkin for a few months, and after a few weeks, I remember it like it was yesterday. I texted Kristen, and I was like, maybe she's born with it. I looked in the mirror that morning and was like, oh, things are happening, and I am happy.
I have used a million billion skin products, and I did not think that I was going to switch off of the skin like lotion, the moisturizer that I used and the under eye cream that I use, because I have used them for a little while and I really like them. And I've switched completely, which is a pretty big deal. OneSkin is the world's first Skin Longevity Company. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. Get started today with 15% off using code BUFFERING at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with code BUFFERING. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, and if you can, please tell them that we sent you.
As a podcast network, our focus is bringing you shows you love to listen to. But we also sell merch related to those shows. And partnering with Shopify has made that both possible and simple for us to do. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor adventures, Shopify helps you sell everywhere because they've got you covered, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. What's so fantastic about Shopify is how, no matter how big you want to grow, they provide everything you need to get control of your business so you can take it to the next level. Businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/realm.
So speaking of, I talked just very briefly about how I was excited that Sunnydale High School, Sunnydale?
Whew,
I panicked. I talked briefly about how Sunnydale High School being front and center in the cold open and in the opening scene was really important because I think that school is a character, the library is a character.
Totally.
But also the Bronze is a character.
Totally!
And we get to meet the Bronze in the first episode too.
We get to meet the Bronze.
Do you know who that band is? Do you know the band that's playing at the Bronze?
I don't. Let me look it up really quick. It might just be actors though.
It seemed like they were like a band, the way that they were like shooting their feet and stuff. It's just like if they were just strangers, if they were just actors, I feel like they would have just shot their faces.
Looks like that band is Sprung Monkey.
Wow. So they're a real band.
I can't tell if they're a real band or if that's like characters.
Oh, okay. So maybe they're not a real band then. Well, anyway, Sprung Monkey or Unsprung Monkey.
Sprung Monkey. Sprung Monkey performs Believe when Buffy goes inside the Bronze, according to this website.
So maybe it was like a song in the 90s that I didn't know about. But, needless to say, we're introduced to the Bronze, which I find interesting as a person who has gone to high school, just because when I went to college, there were bars that, would let me in.
Yeah, but not in high school.
Not in high school. And it's like their whole high school is just there, seeing, a show. And her mom, Buffy's mom, is like, bye, honey.
Have fun at the club.
And she lets her walk there.
Yeah.
Which is a really key scene to discuss.
Right, because anywhere you need to get in Sunnydale, you're going to want to take the alley. You're not going to want to walk down any main streets. It's just like, I think Sunnydale is four streets that make a square, and all the stuff is on the outside of the square on those streets, and then the inside is just a labyrinth of alleys, which we'll all get to know better and better as we move through this series.
Yeah.
So Buffy's taking the shortcut through one of those alleys.
But nod to Joss Whedon and call back to the beginning of this episode of the podcast where we talked about him wanting to undo that alley scene, which he does. I mean, he puts Buffy in an alley.
You think she's in danger.
Yeah, do you? I mean, you do. I guess you do. You do.
You're meant to think. I think if you are seeing that scene for the first time and your brain hard drive is sort of like searching, oh, girl in dark alley, what does this usually mean?
Totally. And we haven't seen Buffy fight anyone until this. I mean, not that she really fights Angel, but she hasn't defended against anyone until this moment.
Yeah,
right?
She hasn't done anything physical up to this point.
So we don't know what she's capable of. And we find out, the first thing we find out is that she's capable of being in Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah. I don't even know. I'm not totally clear on how she got up there. I'm not totally sure that if I was a guy walking down an alley when I was following a girl, I wouldn't see that. Like, she is still human sized. She's just a little higher up. But it does look
still,
fancy.
So still.
So still.
And just straight up and down. And then there she comes in her gymnastic Olympic moment and knocks this mysterious gentleman over. And we don't know. We don't learn who this gentleman is.
He's just a friend.
He's a friend, not Buffy's friend.
He didn't say he was Buffy's friend.
He sure didn't.
But he did say without words that he is a perfect hunky slab of man meat that we can all appreciate.
Yes, we can. And we will. And we will. We shall.
We shall. We did and we will continue to do so.
And Buffy does actually say that to Giles.
He's gorgeous in an annoying way.
Yeah, yeah. But she knows that, I feel like she knows that there's just trouble brewing here. You just see a guy smile like that. I mean, there was like a gleam of light that like bounced off of his tooth practically, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
He's a dream.
He was actually, I think, discovered, like somebody was just driving down the street and saw him like mowing a lawn or something and was like, that guy.
That's how his acting career started?
That is what I have read.
Boy. I don't know if any of you know this, but I used to be an actor. But the reason I bring this up is because my friend and I would visit New York City, and we were convinced that that is how you became an actor. That like if you just sang show tunes or like looked cool on the street corner, that an agent would come up to you and say, "You're it. I need you in my next production." And so I'm really encouraged to hear that this method actually worked for
at least one guy.
At least one guy. It did not pan out for me. I didn't have that moment, but I wasn't mowing a lawn, so
maybe that was your
I
mistake.
could try again.
There are no lawns to mow in New York.
Yeah.
How about that velvet suit jacket that he's wearing?
How about it?
How about it?
I'm pretty sure that there were a couple of girls that I dated who had that exact same velvet blazer.
Sure.
At least one.
Wow.
Yeah. You know who you are out there.
Good to know.
But, yep, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say, but like, yeah, I think that the blazer is important. The shoes are very shiny. But probably the key takeaway in this exchange, well, there's two. One, that this mysterious figure gifts Buffy a crucifix necklace, which she has seen in her dream.
Oh, yeah, the dream necklace.
And also is like, by the way, the harvest, bye. Like, just drops that shit in her lap and then is like, peace.
Yeah, it's like if you wanted to help, it seems like he knows more than he's sharing. And if he wanted to be so helpful... Why withhold?
He's cunning. He's just cunning and really attractive. It's fine. I'll be doing a spin-off podcast called Kristen Dates Mysterious Dark Figure whose name we do not know yet.
That sounds intriguing.
This is intriguing, right?
I'm looking forward to that podcast's debut.
Anyway, so we got a crucifix, we got a harvest, and in Buffy goes to shifty Giles who can't stand still.
Oh, Lord. He's wearing a pinky ring. By the way. Oh, yeah.
You know, I feel like that really established his character. I feel like that's accurate.
Really?
Yeah, listen, there's a good pinky ring and there's a bad pinky ring. No, there's two kinds of pinky rings.
Okay.
There's like a dad pinky ring, and then there's like a creepo pinky ring.
Okay.
I very much feel like Giles is wearing the dad pinky ring here.
All right.
I'm going to give him a pass on it.
I'll allow it.
Okay, great. So then, big reveal. Giles is not friends with the dark, mysterious figure.
Heck no.
And trouble ensues.
It sure does.
We go to the speaking of there's a lot of physical places that are real characters in this show, is what I'm learning talking about episode 1.
Oh.
Because the cemetery.
Cemetery. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or a graveyard. Which one is it?
Well, the graveyard is adjacent to a church. That is a big sprawling thing. I think it's a cemetery.
Okay, cool. So I think it's a cemetery.
We never see a church attached to it. So,
yeah. Although Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn has a chapel inside of it, but that still lets it be a cemetery.
I think the idea with a graveyard is that it's a place where people who attend the church can be buried.
I see.
Right, and that chapel is not like an active service chapel.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have right. Shh. You can have your funeral inside of that chapel, but you don't go to it for Sunday Mass.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, this is important material to cover on buffering the Vampire Slayer because
did you just forget where you were?
I forgot what it was called because I was going to say buffering cast. I got caught up in the social media handle.
Sure.
Which, by the way, is at buffering cast. But I think that talking about the difference between a cemetery and a graveyard is really key, factual, important, and proper information for buffering the Vampire Slayer.
Sure.
And I find that the cemetery is a character in the show as well.
Absolutely. We're going to spend a lot of time there. Get to know it very well.
We do. I think that maybe it was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, even back in my initial viewing of it, which was sparse and sporadic, really romanticized the cemetery for me.
Sure. All that moonlight and fog. Totally.
Romanticized, and maybe vampires too. I don't know. I had a big thing.
You had your Anne Rice custom fangs, velvet dress,
just
choker necklaces.
Right by that. But I really did. I read so much Anne Rice. I watched Interview with the Vampire. I read the Vampire Diaries. I love.
You did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I loved them so much. And then I bought fangs. Jenny just skipped right over this, but I bought fangs for Halloween that were you would mold them. You would put them in hot water and put little gel packs in them and mold them to your teeth so they would just click in. They were two separate little fangs and they were so cool. And then I just started wearing them all the time.
All the time.
And I had velvet dresses and Doc Martens and fangs. I wanted to be a vampire. So it's really, I think it's great that here I am still at age 35 talking about vampires.
Just to be clear, though, that was a very different part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have fangs or velvet dresses anymore, but
But you're still into the darkness.
I am. Wow.
Okay. Let's see. What have we haven't talked yet about Buffy and Cordelia interacting with each other.
Yeah, the gayest couple of the year award goes to... Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, there's a great deal of shoe and fashion-based sexual tension occurring between these two characters.
I think that every episode of this podcast, we should name the two characters that have the most sexual tension in each episode.
Absolutely.
I think that'll be a fun game.
Whether it's sexual tension or just fashion-based sexual tension.
Yeah. There's just an obvious tension, and Cordelia and Buffy had it in this episode.
They truly did. And they got into that whole quiz thing where apparently James Spader was the hottest guy they could think of.
Who is James Spader?
He's in a show now called The Blacklist.
No. I mean, I know of it, but I don't know if I can picture him.
I don't think he's somebody that you would call up in your mind if you were like, who is the hunkiest babe?
I'm going to just Google him right now.
Do it.
James Spader?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's do young James Spader.
Well, yeah, let's see if that yields any better results.
James Franco, young James Spader. Okay. I mean...
Can you shine that phone this way? I'd like to see.
Yeah, there's kind of a little montage of photos.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, he's pretty dreamy in a couple of these photos, and a couple of these photos...
Kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, but look at that photo.
Yeah, all right.
I'll get behind that thumbs up of James Spader.
For sure. Okay, I retract the shade I was throwing at them being into James Spader.
Yeah, this isn't an anti-James Spader podcast, so...
I just, listening, hearing that name now just has a very different meaning than it did in 1997. That's all.
Yeah. No offense, James Spader. So Cordelia and Buffy have lots of tension.
Yeah. And Cordelia has so many amazing moments. I mean, obviously, it's like you were saying, it's a little sort of inflated caricature type stuff. But God, that moment when Buffy, Willow, Xander, and Jesse are all on the bench, and Cordelia comes over to tell them about the dead guy in the locker, and Jesse's like, "Hey, Cordelia," and she with missing no beats is just oh, please.
Yeah.
And doesn't even bother to address it any further. And just sort of plows forward with the dead guy in the locker information.
Negative beats.
So good.
Yeah, it's really good. I love Cordelia. I will always love Cordelia.
And she's only going to get better.
Are there shirts that say Team Cordelia?
I'm sure you could find one.
I need to find one.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't, I'm going to make one. I promise you, all of you. We should sell shirts that are Team Buffy, Team Cordelia, Team, Xander, Team Willow.
Yeah.
Which team would you be on?
Me?
Yeah.
Between Buffy, Xander, Willow, and Cordelia?
Yeah, but we'll put Giles back in the bin, too.
And Giles?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm Team Willow.
Okay, great.
But that'll change.
It's a good team to be on.
When Cordelia starts showing a little more vulnerability, I'll be Team Cordelia for an extended period.
I feel like it'd be the nicest looking shirt, too. It would look nice. Her name looks nice. Cordelia.
Yeah, that's quite a name.
Okay, so I think where we're at now is shit starts going wrong real fast and real quick.
Yeah. We had a scene that we haven't talked about where, sort of the master is resurrected or whatever, the naked mole rat vampire.
Oh, right.
And Luke is like, amen. I feel like him sort of having this weird demonic text that he seems to be reciting from memory and then like co-opting amen. I don't know. It just doesn't feel very on brand. I guess he's supposed to be kind of a sarcastic
demon.
Yeah.
I think that the award for second most sexual tension is given to the master and
Luke.
Luke.
They've got something special.
They really do. There's a lot going on there.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's rough. I want to give a shout out to whoever edited this episode for their use of effects on the force field. What is that?
Oh, God.
No, I'm not. You're laughing.
Oh, you're serious.
I'm serious. I think it was a good use of limited technology to convey.
The force field looks good. You know what doesn't look good? The master rising up out of the blood pool completely dry.
Well, he's the magic.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not great.
It's not great, but we'll see worse.
We'll see worse, and then we'll start to see better.
Yeah.
I mean, the budget for this
start to see worse again.
Yeah. The budget for this episode was probably like $5. And they did great.
They did. I think they did fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, the master rises, blah, blah, blah. People are kissing people's hands. They need sacrifice. Not sacrifices even. He just needs to eat.
Yeah, he is hungry and he's trapped in a force field.
He's hungry, trapped in a force field. So Darla, I don't understand how Darla is instructed to go get someone and then this child vampire who doesn't know how to do anything is sent to get one, right? That's what Darla implies.
Right. I think what we're led to believe is that, like, there's this group of vampires who are, like, waiting for the master to be resurrected, and they're all sort of cooperating to help restore the master back to his strength in time for the harvest.
Because then if they restore him, as I understand it, if they restore the master, then everyone will turn into bottles of wine, but instead of wine, there'll be blood, and the blood will flow freely for everyone.
Are you quoting directly from the book of Luke? That was not too far. You weren't too far off.
Right? It was like, if the master rises and you feed him 2 children, then blood will pour from everywhere and all the vampires will be full.
Just stick out your tongue and catch a blood flake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I understand their motivation, but I just feel like with such a serious task, you'd think that they would have sent Darla and another Darla, like 2 senior members of this vampire clan or whatever.
80s guy doesn't seem to have a very strong handle, but I also feel like they're not really expecting to encounter somebody who can fight them.
Which, like, come on, you guys. Why?
I don't know.
They've been around for hundreds of years, apparently. Why do they not know that there would be a vampire slayer?
It's very peculiar.
It is peculiar. I think it's because they were told that there needed to be more than one episode of television. Nothing else makes sense.
Well, I think they don't actually say, like, what's a vampire slayer?
No, but when Buffy starts kicking Darla's ass, she's like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, and Darla's, I mean, we just met Darla, but I feel like Darla is a smart individual.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, come on. All of a sudden, this person is so much stronger than you out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think Darla not knowing what she's encountering is going to be sort of retconned out of the show later. As we learn more about Darla.
So, to go through this, I mean, this piece I feel like is a scene that we'll see, right, of vampires and non-vampires fighting to restore evil or restore goodness. That's sort of a central theme of the show. But I don't think that there's anything too key that happens apart from, like, vampire dude tries to kill Willow, and then Darla walks in with other dude who just doesn't care about anything except getting some ass. And then and then in comes Buffy, and Buffy's like, bam, 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 and
she kills the young vampire. Darla runs away?
No. Darla is like, oh, shit, and then fights Buffy.
Right. They fight each other, then Luke gets there, and he's like, I don't care. I really, his voice and like...
so good.
So Luke steps in and starts laying the smack down. Xander, Jesse, and Willow vacate the crypt.
Right. Wait, I just want to talk about my favorite line, where he's like, you are strong. Wait, what is he? Is he saying?
He says, "You're strong. I'm stronger."
Yeah, you're strong. And then there's like a 10-minute pause, and he's like, "I'm stronger." It's so good.
Yeah, he definitely graduated at the top of his class at dramatic vampire battle banter school.
Yeah,
like. Yeah, it's a little heavy-handed.
Great.
But excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Darla runs outside after the other three who are surrounded by vampires.
Like a million vampires.
And we end the episode on, oh my God, Luke's going to buy Buffy. And then she's going to die. And then there's only one episode of TV.
The show will be over. But yeah, and they're in a crypt. In a coffin in a crypt.
Yeah, in a box inside of a box inside of a box.
Little boxes,
in the
boxes.
Graveyard.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about?
There's one thing we didn't talk about, and that's the operating structure of Sunnydale High School, which apparently stays open when dead bodies fall out of lockers.
Gym is canceled, though. Give them some credit.
They were like, dead guy fell out of a locker, so no gym today, but school will carry on.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're on a Hellmouth,
yeah,
I guess the show must go on.
I guess so.
Shout out to the girl who plays, I think her name is Aura, who has the guy fall out of the locker onto her. Really, really pro screaming.
Yeah.
Really amazing horror movie scream.
How do you get good at a horror movie scream?
Practice. Not in my house, though.
You want to know who the best one is? You know who the best horror movie screamer is.
Oh my God, it's Rosanna Arquette.
Nope.
Joanna Arquette.
No.
What is her name?
Patricia.
Her
name is Patricia Arquette.
I just kept thinking like Julie. But that's not an Arquette that I'm aware of. Patricia Arquette has the most amazing horror movie scream of all time.
If you want to hear a scream, you pop in Freddy Krueger, the third one. It's called Dream Warriors, and you watch Kristen is her character's name.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Scream, and you will be like, wow. It's better than Aura. It's better than everyone.
Yeah, she's kind of the best.
Yeah, she's the scream queen.
Well, I think we've talked about definitely a whole bunch of things. Maybe all the things.
Maybe. I mean, never all the things. We could probably do a podcast on this podcast and dig in deeper to all of the things.
Let's do that.
But I think we'll leave that to someone else.
Okay.
To do the meta podcast. But I mean, we've covered core characters. We've covered symbolism. We've covered lesbianism, shoes, vampires. We've covered a lot. I think that this episode, talk about setting a foundation.
Seriously.
I'm ready.
I can't wait to see what happens next.
Oh my gosh. And you're saying that as a person who knows what happens next.
I know.
But I don't know what happens next, which is what, a fun fact is that I watched seasons 2 through 7. Is there 7?
Mm-hmm.
But this is my first full watching of season 1. So I have some ideas about the characters, but I don't know what happens in the season.
You're going to find out.
I'm really excited to find out.
So we'll be back next week to watch the next episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with you and talk about it. Between now and then, you can find us on Twitter at BufferingCast, or you can email us at bufferingthevampireslayer@gmail.com.
What an email address.
Thank you.
What an email address. We scored. I'm Kristin Russo, and you can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is unfortunately really hard to spell. It's my first and middle name, Kristin Noeline. That's Noeline, for those of you who don't know how to spell Noeline.
Like Noel with I-N-E at the end.
Yeah, it's confusing. People think it's Kristin Online. It's not. You can find me there, or if you just can't spell Noeline, you can find me on Twitter at EveryoneIsGay, which is an organization that I run for LGBTQ young people. Jenny, where do we find you?
Well, hey, I'm Jenny Owen Youngs, and you can find me under that name on just about all social media platforms, except for Snapchat, on which I am Forever Hunks for some reason.
Forever Hunks.
Exactly. Thanks so much for tuning in and hanging out with us. We're really looking forward to continuing this podcast.
Until next week.
Ow!
Down, down, down.
In Sunnydale, I haven't quite unpacked. Oh, hey, Cordelia, Xander, Willow, ugh, who's this creeper in the stacks with a great big vampire book, probably bound in human skin? There's a dead guy in a locker, and all they did was cancel Jim. Whoa, welcome to the Hellmouth.
Forgot my steak.
Welcome to the Hellmouth.
Will we be okay?
Welcome to the Hellmouth.
Joyce is optimistic.
Headed to the bronze, and there's a hot guy on my heels talking some trash about some harvest. Is this librarian for real? Gotta follow Willow to the graveyard, try to keep her from getting bit. I can't believe I got sucked back into this. Shh. Whoa, welcome to the Hellmouth.
I'm in a crypt.
Welcome to the Hellmouth.
Luke is big.
Welcome to the Hellmouth.
To be continued.
Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone, so we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural then and now.